welcome to the show, guys. We really appreciate you joining today. Today, we've got a very important topic, something that I think everybody really needs to discuss, and it's really timely right now. We today are going to talk about basic fraud event prevention for your commercial accounts. As you guys know, there's been massive breaches, both in the US government, major corporations, all types of things, and cybersecurity and cyber crimes are the fastest growing crimes in the United States and in the world, actually. We have seen a trend over the last few years where cyber criminals have gone from targeting the Fortune 500 companies, and they're moving down to targeting smaller companies that are making 10 million in revenue, 25 million in revenue, 50 million in revenue. A lot of times these companies have not put in place basic fraud prevention measures and are very vulnerable to all types of fraud. And so what we're going to talk about today, which is very important, I think you guys need to really pay attention, is what are some basic ways that you can protect yourself from fraud. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that there is a major difference between the liability a bank has for consumer accounts and for commercial accounts. Okay. On consumer accounts, you have a much longer time period in which to report a case and make a claim. Furthermore, the bank has a more responsibility to try to help you recoup funds. So you will see consumers being able to get things done in a not necessarily a quicker fashion, but in a more robust fashion than businesses. Businesses have a much shorter time frame because there's an expectation there that companies are checking their bank accounts, checking their finances on a daily basis. Okay. And so what that means is as soon as something comes up, you got to tell your bankers about it. You got to try to initiate claim on your account, and you need to do something right away, because banks' liability is not to refund you every time there's an issue, but it's to provide you tools and ways in order to try to prevent things from happening. Okay. I've seen a lot of people lose hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars due to different types of fraud. And they expect that the bank is just going to recoup those or just send them back that money, and it's not happening. And this has turned into lawsuits for multiple banks. It's turned into a lot of issues and a lot of ill will. But, at the end of all of this, you have to realize that it's the fraudsters that are at fault here. And so we have to do the best that we can to protect ourselves. So what are some of the tools that banks can provide you to help you fight against fraud in your commercial space? Let's start with one of the oldest technologies that is out there, and it's to help prevent against paper-based fraud, like washing checks or changing the amounts on checks or creating new checks and sending them out on your behalf. And that first type of product to prevent you from fraud is called Positive Pay. Check Positive Pay. Every bank will have a slight variation, but if you say Positive Pay, your banker is going to know what it is. What is Positive Pay? Well, basically, Positive Pay is a way for you to partner with your bank in preventing check fraud. What do? You will provide the bank with a list of all the checks that you've written, check numbers, dates, account, amount, all those type of things, provide it to the bank. And then as checks from your account are presented to the bank for payment, the bank is going to check that against the list that you've provided to the bank and make sure that that check is on the list. If the check is on the list, it's going to process normally, no problem, nobody's going to know anything. If the check is not on the list, you're going to get a notification, and that notification is going to say, hey, we've got a check that wasn't on your list. Here's the details on the check. Sometimes they can even provide you a picture of the check, and they'll ask you, is this a fraudulent check or is this something you forgot to provide us? If it's something you forgot to provide them, you're going to check that and they're going to process the check. No problem. If the check is fraudulent, they're going to reject payment on that check and you'll have no further action, but you're not going to have you won't have that check hit your account. Now, there are multiple ways for you to partner with your bank in order to get this information to the bank. So basically, you will need to export a positive pay file, which many accounting software can help you create, or you're going to have to export a check ledger file from your accounting software and then manipulate it into the format accepted by the bank. That's the first way. So basically, in the first way, you're creating a file with all the information the bank needs on it, and you're uploading it to the bank. Now, what's important about this is this might change the way you write checks, because you might not want to make this file every time you write a single check. And what that might mean is that you might want to start doing check runs once a week, 3 times a week, or on a schedule to where I'm going to run 100 checks. I'm going to pull that file once, upload it once, and there it goes. Okay. Now, if you don't have the capability to produce this positive pay file or export the check ledger and manipulate it in the way the bank wants, most banks will also provide you an option to go manually enter those through their online web portal. And you'll just enter every check that you've written in there. Now, that could be a little bit tedious and time consuming, but it can help you with a lot of headache in the long run. Okay. And so, it's really not that complicated. One other thing you to keep in mind is if you have checks that you write kind of last minute, give them to people, they go straight to cash them, there's a little bit of a time delay. And sometimes it could be a couple hours to where from the time that you write the check and upload that file into the positive pay file to where the bank is ready to check that against the thing. So, like if you're in a business where you're paying people like on the spot and they're going to cash it, you might need to change your processes a little bit. Okay. So it's a very important because, every time you get a check out there, all your account information is at the bottom of the check. People can buy Maker ink printers right now. They can print out checks from anybody at any time and just go out and cash them. And unfortunately, it's a very old and easy way to commit fraud. And there's a lot of people that amazingly are still not protected against this. Eventually, you want to kind of get away from writing checks altogether so that information is not out there. But check positive pay is a great way for you to do this. On the electronic side, ACH, Automated Clearinghouse. Most of the time, there's nothing stopping fraudsters from debiting your account. Just like when you go and make a payment and the utility bill debits your account, there's nothing from a fraudster to debit your account either. All they have to do is have your account number, routing number, and they can debit your account. Now, fortunately, there's also tools to help prevent against this. So the way ACH works is if somebody's debiting your account, they're going to have what's called an ACH company ID that identifies them as the person initiating the transaction. Many companies will have multiple ACH company IDs. So for example, if you run payroll through not QuickBooks, but even QuickBooks, if you run payroll through Paychecks or ADP or someone like that, and they debit your account through ACH, they might have different ACH IDs for the taxes, for the payroll, etc., for the benefits. And so, you might have multiple ACH IDs for the same company, but the important thing is that that's what's identifying the debit coming into your account. So what can you do for that? There's ACH blocks and filters and ACH Positive Pay. And how do those products work? Well, similar to Check Positive Pay, ACH Positive Pay is going to show you what's coming in through your account and allow you to make a decision on those things. So typically how it will work is your bank will provide you notification that X company is trying to debit your account for so much money. Do you want to allow it? If you press allow, it's going to ask you, hey, is this somebody that you're going to trust in the future? And do you want to automatically allow this ACH ID to debit your account in the future? If that's the case, you can set that up. So in the future, you don't have to be bothered every time the utility company tries to debit your account. Or you can say, yes, I want them to debit my account, but I want there to be a limit of $500, for example, that they can't debit above that amount. And then if not, you can reject it, and then that payment will not go through. That's how it works. And you can set up your account where there's no ACH debits that can hit your account. You can set it up to where only certain things hit your account. But really, there's ACH Positive Pay and ACH blocks and filters are very powerful to protect your accounts from from electronic fraud. So if you've got the check fraud covered and then you've got the electronic covered, your account is starting to look pretty good right now. Every time that there's a breach on your account, you're gonna be able to just stop it before it happens and continue with your day. Another thing you could do, which is very important in this type of thing, is have a more sophisticated account structure, account setup. So there are a lot of tools at banks, including things like ZBA or zero balance accounts or things like that can give you multiple layers of accounts where you do not have the majority of your funds susceptible to fraud. Or you can have it the most basically not susceptible to fraud. So basically you can have a master account which holds the majority of your funds. You can have that not have any debits on it. You can have that not post any checks. And then you can have a sub account structure underneath that where you have certain types of accounts that are only accept deposits. So if those account numbers get out, nobody can debit the account. You can have certain types of accounts that only make payments out. And you can have those automatically draw funds from a consolidated or an operating account. You can have siloed accounts where one account holds a lot of funds and you have to manually transfer funds to another account that then goes through this automated transfer system to other accounts. So basically there's a sophisticated way you need to talk to your banker and your treasury management officer about how to set those up and what the best account structure is for your business. Now keep in mind, all these things have a cost, but as I tell my clients, it's a lot cheaper to set these up right now than have one fraud event. Okay, I've had clients that the bank has stopped $140,000 debit from coming out of their account. With that one thing, they've paid for years and years and years of fraud prevention. Don't be one of these people that are reactionary. Be proactive, set these things up on your account and save yourself the headache ahead of time. These are very basic, simple things. They're in the grand scheme of things, they're not that expensive. Some banks will provide some of these services for free, So you just need to talk to each one of your, to your banker and your treasury officer, because the treasury officer is the expert when it comes to these things. Okay. Another few things I want to talk about is multi-factor authentication and dual control through your account, through your banking system. So multi-factor authentication, which you might be aware of, is basically when you sign into your account, your online banking account for your commercial banking account, you'll have multiple steps, which include a password and some kind of a token. Okay. So in order for you to log in, you're going to need both of those things. Or they might send you a text or something like that. What that's going to do is if somebody is able to get a hold of your password, they're still going to have that second factor authentication that they're going to have to get by, which is a little bit more difficult for them. Okay. So most banks will have like digital tokens where you keep a token on your keychain, or they might have a mobile token where it's on your phone and you generate that token every time you want to log in, or maybe they just make you generate it every time you want to release a payment. But the thing is that it's requiring both your password and a second form of authentication. And this is very powerful because the dark web has all kinds of people's passwords out there. It might even have your company passwords out there. But that token that's generated is a one-time use. A lot of times it's a random string. Sometimes it comes via text. And that can help you against having a fraud occur on your account. Now, the dual control is another thing you really want to consider. Dual control basically means that you'll have two sets of eyes on every transaction leaving your account. So what does that mean? That means that if you're going to send a wire out, the person that prepares and submits the wire is different from the person that approves and releases it. And most commercial banking platforms allow for this through their online banking platform. So if I'm preparing a wire, I can't actually release it. I have to have Adam or the next guy that has the authority go into the account, look at what's getting left out, and release it. This helps prevent against both external fraud and internal fraud. Okay. And not only that, but most banking systems have what's called an audit trail, where each user has a trail of what they've done in the accounting system, in the online banking platform, and can be gone back to trace back fraud. Now, I have a lot of clients telling me, hey, I have Susie. She's been with me for 20 years. She was at my kid's wedding, X, Y, and Z, and she will never do anything to us. I trust her with my life. Well, unfortunately, Susie or other people like her frequently get put in difficult spots, and sometimes their character is tested. I personally have close friends that have owned businesses that have had lifelong relationships ruined because of those people defrauding them out of money. One of my close friends from my MBA program, he had a company and found out that his bookkeeper had been defrauding him for over 3 years and covering everything up. This is a person, like I said, that was at his child's birth, that had been part of the family, been to family events, been to family functions. He considered that person a part of the family, and that person had been defrauding them. I've had customers whose brothers or sisters or related relatives have defrauded them. And so that audit trail, that dual control, those things are good deterrents, but they're also good at helping figure out what's gone wrong after something happens. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about that's very useful is the responsible use of credit cards and commercial card programs. One of the main things you're trying to do in this whole situation is have your account numbers protected. You do not want those account numbers out in the ether. You do not want people knowing them. The less people know about your account numbers, the easier it is for you to protect them. So I understand it's difficult. For example, if you have to give your account number out to customers so that they can pay you and stuff like that. That's why I'm saying you might have an account structure where you have a deposit-only account and you're only giving out that account number. But another way to kind of protect that information from getting out is by having a commercial card program and using the card for as much payments as you can. That way, you're not getting your account number out there. Most commercial cards have some sort of insurance against fraud or employee misuse. So it's much easier to get that money back than it is a wire that goes out. Okay. Another thing you can do with commercial card programs is a lot of times banks have what are called ghost cards or one-time use card numbers. And you can get yourself set up to where if you're making a payment, you can give a ghost card number out, which there's no physical card of. It's only used for certain vendor payments. Or you can have a one-time use card where that number is used for that one transaction and that's it. Okay? That's going to really go a long way to help protecting your account. But one of the most important things that you can do is that call and talk to the people you are paying, okay, on the phone. Every time somebody changes their account information and you are going to send them a wire, make sure you pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm about to send you $1 million here. I noticed that you changed your account information. Can you verify that with me? Because this is a little bit unusual. Okay. One of the biggest things we are seeing is people's emails accounts getting hacked. And then people sending emails on their behalf or spoofing their emails and sending companies the wrong information, the wrong accounting information, and having them send payments there. For example, I had a client. Well, actually, we were trying to bring him on as a client. But this client had bought a piece of equipment that was $24 million. They paid the first 10% of the payment at the beginning of the contract to produce that piece of equipment. That was $2.4 million. And they were scheduled to receive the equipment. Let's say it was tomorrow, for example. Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the CEO gets an email and says, look, I know you're scheduled to receive this tomorrow or today. I need you to send your what is it, $21.6 million, the balance of your payment, to our new account that we just set up because we had an issue with the old account. Now, the CFO got up in the middle of the night because his phone was going off. He got this email and he reads it and he says, there is no way that this person located in the United States is emailing me about this at 3 a.m. So he doesn't say anything. He tries to call the CFO at his office. The counterparty CFO at his office. Person obviously doesn't answer. He leaves him a message and says, hey, I got this email from you. Just want to make sure it's you. Goes back to sleep. 6:30 in the morning, emails blowing up, phone calls coming in, and he's getting calls from the counterparty saying, no, that is absolutely not our account number. We have been hacked. They've been in our email system for 2 months waiting for you to make this payment. And now that they know that it's coming out, they've asked you to send it to a fraudulent account. Please do not send it. Well, it was, first of all, 6:30, so he wasn't sending wires out at 6:30 in the morning. But second of all, the CFO was savvy enough to understand that that was highly unlikely. But who knows what other customers that counterparty had not received payments from, And so that's something that we've been seeing a lot. So make sure you're in verbal communication with your customers or your vendors or whoever you're paying, okay? Especially when you see account numbers change. Like I said before, the liability for the bank on consumer and commercial accounts is dramatically different. And they're not just going to refund you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars because you made a fraud claim. No. They're going to report it to the FBI, the police, or whatever. They're going to try to help with the investigation, but they're not going to just refund you money. So you need to protect your accounts ahead of time. Now, this is very important stuff. The most important thing I would say is talk to your banker, talk to your treasury partner, and get some good advice, and be diligent on these things because it's a fast-growing crime, and there's billions of dollars in fraud going on out there, and you don't want to be part of it. If you have any questions, feel free to to email me, write them below, get in contact with us. We're glad to answer whatever we can, but you really need to talk to your banker to see what their specific bank has by ways of tools. But these are the basic fraud prevention tools that we have out there. At a minimum, you should be using some of these, and it'll help you go a long way to protecting your account. Thanks again. This has been Capital Interactive. I'm Besim, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.